I'd like to thank Tim England for allowing me to feature his music in today's project video. There always seems to be a big hubbub over what material to build garden planters out of. All I know is that I've had cedar planters that lasted less than a year, and I've had others made from scrap pine that's going on 4 years. There's really no right or wrong, as I like to say, merely individual preferences. I like to use what I have on hand, and that's going to work fine for me here today. The first thing I want to do is cut the vertical side slats to length on the miter saw. These are going to be edge glued together to create 4 large panels. Each panel needs 5 slats, so I've got a few of these cuts to do, and a stop block set up on the miter station is going to make short work of all that. Now, as far as the glue ups go, I usually glue 2 or 3 boards together at a time, then glue those together to get to the width that I want. That makes it easier to handle and gives me a more consistent glue up. Now that does take a little bit longer. For me, it took about a day or so, just depending on the number of clamps that you have to deal with. I don't have that many, so it took an entire day. But nonetheless, once you have all those done, you can take them out of the clamps. And these are too wide to go through my thickness planer, so I'll just take a belt sander to help even out the surface a little bit. I'm not going for a perfectly smooth surface at this stage. All I want to do is remove the dried glue squeeze out, and if there are any high points between the boards, I'm going to take those down at this point as well. Once I'm satisfied with what I have, it's over to the table saw with a 45-degree angle on my blade. Then I can make a pass on one side of the board. Like so is good. Then I'll adjust the fence about an inch or so. Cut another angle on the other side of the panel. The only thing I want to be careful of is that I make sure that the angles are both going in the same direction. I'll set those aside and go back to the miter saw to cut some top and bottom cap pieces. So as you've guessed, I'm doing mitered corners for this project to give it a more finished final look, and I know what you're thinking. Duh. But don't worry, I'm going to walk you through how I cut my angles, simple and easy style. First, I'm going to cut my boards to length a few inches longer than I actually need. I think I went about 4 or 5 inches longer just to be safe. And then it's over to the router with a straight bit so I can route a dado in each of these boards. Okay, so notice this dado is about an inch back from one of the edges. I'm going to want to keep track of that in this next step, and I'll show you in just a moment what happens when you don't. So all those boards go back to the miter saw, and I'll adjust to a 45-degree angle there. Cut that angle on one end of each board. No measurements needed, just make the cut. That's why I cut them a little bit longer than I needed. That way I have that wiggle room. The only thing that I need to be mindful of, as I said earlier, was where that dado was. And here I've messed up. I put the wrong edge against my fence on the saw and ended up cutting the angle in the wrong direction on this piece to the right. The dado is now on the wrong side of the board, and the angles are not going to allow the dado to line up all the way around the project. Not a big deal though, I just cut a new piece and on I go. I'll dry fit the ridge cap onto a panel and flush up the angled end, like so. Take a pencil and mark the other side. Back over to the miter station and adjust the saw to cut a 45-degree angle in the opposite direction. Be sure to sneak up on that cut. Nice and easy like. Perfect. Now, before I move that piece, I'll set a stop block. Then head over to one of my panels to make sure I'm flush on both ends. Yep, good to go. Told you that'd be simple and easy, now didn't I? Ridge caps are done. Time to turn my attention back to the side panels to cut the holes for some flowers. I'm drilling for 6 holes on each panel, so I'll measure and mark for equal spacing. Don't worry, all these measurements along with the materials and cut list will be on my website, simplyeasydiy.com. Check the description. I'll link you from there, as I always do. I'm using a 3-inch hole saw. And yes, I have a whole set of these, and they weren't that much money. I believe I paid $30 or so. I'll have a link to where I got these on my website. In other words, there's a bunch of stuff over there, matey. Go check it out. Let's clean this up a little bit, shall we? Around over a bit, we'll take off the rough edges around those holes. Then I'll spend a little bit of time with a random orbit sander to clean up and smooth out my panels just a little bit more before final assembly. Not a final finish type of sand, because I'm going to have to sand one more time a little bit later. Assembly time. At first, I'm just going with simple glue joints. However, simple glue joints, when those joints are mitered, can be somewhat tricky when you're assembling. That's where a band clamp comes in handy. Then, when you apply the straight clamps, just make sure to apply pressure a little at a time from one side and then the other. That way, it keeps everything squared as you go. I'll be honest, it takes a little practice, but once you get the technique down, you'll be good to go. Now, I can't leave the project to depend on those glue joints solely. They're just simply not going to be strong enough. And if you've ever been around my channel any length of time, you know I like to highlight my joinery. My favorites are dowels, so I think that's going to do nicely here. A pilot hole with a smaller diameter drill bit will help guide the 1/4 inch one. And a piece of scrap held against the other side is going to help prevent a lot of blowout. A little glue, and the dowel rod. Same thing on all 4 sides, all the way down the tower planter. Flush cut with a pole saw. Then, sand everything smooth and flush. Some water-resistant stain to help protect our new planter, and it's time to get a little dirty. Hey, thanks for watching. Don't forget to check me out on Facebook and Pinterest. Subscribe if you haven't, and smash that thumbs up or thumbs down button. Visit me at simplyeasydiy.com. Until then.